world and YouTube world and just World Wide Web in general, you have stumbled into Kari's Corner yet again. As usual, please drop in the chat your name. Are you an NA? Are you an RN? Where are you tuning in from? So excited that you have joined us today. So we're going to start as usual as people are logging in with the fun fact, if you will. And the fun fact, I've kind of like to relate it to who our special guest is today. And I'm really excited about our special guest. But our fun fact for today is I was doing a little bit of light reading this week, and there was a test done. Scientists did a test, and they grew trees in this like biodome. So it was like perfect environment, perfect temperature, and they grew these trees and they were beautiful, right? Well, they took the trees and they planted them out in nature, you know, in the correct temperature and all that other kind of stuff. But after they planted the trees, hello from Ghana, after they planted the trees, they noticed that they were dying. And the reason that they were dying is because the wind and the rain and the harshness of the world and the realities that trees face in real life as they're establishing their root system and as they're growing, the trees that were grown in this sheltered protection area never got to establish those really strong roots. So I know, and the same can be said for all of you out there. I know that if you're out there and you're interviewing and you're struggling with your English exam, or you just have so many frustrations right now at your job and with the immigration process, it's those frustrations that make us stronger people. So if you're going through that frustrating time right now, kind of take a step back and think about, you know what, I'm going to get there. I'm going to keep working. I'm going to do this because this is making me a better nurse. This is making me better at English. This is making me better at interviewing. I'm going to get that next job. And if you don't, you know what? That door closed for a reason. Keep interviewing. Keep trying. Don't give up. Don't give up. So be thankful that you're one of those trees that's been able to grow out in the harshness of nature, because if you've had everything just so easy come to you so easily, the first time you face a difficulty, it's going to be tough for you. So those of you out there who are struggling, I hear you. I see you. We see you at Worldwide. Keep trucking along. Keep working. So with that said, I am really, really excited. Hello from Haiti. Oh my gosh, Haiti's so beautiful. And South Korea, the Philippines, Bahrain, Pakistan, South Africa. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I am so excited to bring on our special guest today because there are not a lot of people in the world that can match my energy, but this one, I'm pretty sure she surpasses me with her positive energy and her smile. She brings so much to the Worldwide family, to our office every day. I am super pumped to welcome the VP of Recruiting herself, Miss Amy Kerr.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Kari. Good morning, everybody who's joining us today. I'm so excited to be here. What an honor to be invited into Kari's Corner.
Are you kidding, Amy? You named Kari's Corner. Like there needs to be like a little copyright sign under my sign behind me that says property of Amy Kerr. You know, she is the one that named Kari's Corner. Myanmar. I always like to see where people are tuning in from because I know we have the title of Worldwide, right? But then when we do these things, you actually get to see like, holy smokes.
Right. Like Nigeria, Kenya, Dubai, like so many places. Tanzania. Look at that. That's awesome.
It's so crazy. And I know, Amy, with recruitment, so you're the VP of recruitment, you're the first person. Your department is the first group of people that people interact with at Worldwide. You guys are really like the first face that they get to see. So while you're on the show today, we're going to be talking, hello in London. We're going to be talking about all things interview and all things, what happens in that very first phase of, to get the ball rolling for the immigration process. So what is the first thing that happens, Amy, when a candidate turns in their resume?
Yeah, great question. So we have a team of recruiters both here in the US, and then we have an exclusive partner in the Philippines with HRPC. And so one of our great recruiters gets the resume and then immediately tries to reach out to schedule a conversation with the candidate. So what we'd really like is to chat about experience and I think really desires and wants about living in the US. I think one other thing about the US is it's such a big country. There are so many different states and so many different places to live. I think one of the things we also want to do is find out about like what sort of place would you like to start a life in the US? And perhaps there are some states or some places that are really great to live and are really great to start a new life here in the US that you might not have thought about. And so we'd like to chat about those things too. And so that's really where it starts. And then the recruiting team will take that information and then help match you up with what the available interviews are that we have open. And then share with you that information for the candidates to select what's the right interview.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you able to take into consideration, I know a lot of candidates, by the time they get to me, they're learning their English exam, they've got a job, right? But are you able to take into consideration if someone says like, I have family in this state, I would really like to live in this state? Are you able to take those things into consideration? And how often would you say you see those things working out for candidates?
Yeah, I think it works out more than it doesn't. Really, I think we always try to take that into consideration. Depending on your family, being close to family is important for a lot of people. And honestly, we do have some people who say maybe they would rather be a little bit farther away from their family, and that's okay too. We're happy to support that, but I think it really just depends on what the needs are in the hospitals and locations that we have available. And we probably have, between 30 to 50 clients that we're going to hire for this year. Mm-hmm. And so we do have a wide range of employers. But there are some places that, are popular, maybe that we don't always have spots open, like in Texas or in California. But we often do have openings in like bordering states. And depending, like both those states are so big, like you can be in Texas and still be 10 hours away from your family. Or you could be in Louisiana and you could be an hour away from your family. So we try really hard to, we might have some other locations that you haven't thought about that would still be geographically closer. And so we do a lot of work to try to figure that out and help in every way that we can.
Yeah, that's really important. I'm glad you brought that up. Like, because Texas is huge. My dad used to live in Texas, and I mean, it's a massive state. So just because, you get an offer from Louisiana and your family's in Texas, don't shut that down. Like, get on Google, do a Google map and see the driving distance between the two. That's an excellent point. Didn't even think about that. So after you have that conversation with the recruiter and you get the interview set up, right? What is that first interview like with an employer?
Yeah. And so let me say this, a lot of our employers, this is a highlight too of their day and their time, and getting to meet the international nurse candidates is really exciting for them. So generally what happens is we ask that you be online at least 30 minutes before your interview. And we've got folks here that will connect over Skype. And then we'll send you a link to a Zoom interview. And when the interviewer is ready, we will let you in the Zoom room and introduce you to the interviewer. It's generally about a 30-minute interview. Sometimes it may go over, it may be a little bit less time depending on the client, but almost always they're around 30 minutes. Okay. And then it's really, they ask questions and, things like, tell me about your background, and, they'll ask for examples. Tell me about a time where you had to make a difficult decision, or sometimes they'll ask, like, have you ever had an ethical dilemma where there were people that you worked with and they were making the wrong decision or giving out the wrong medication, and how did you handle it? Sometimes they'll ask to give like a head to toe assessment, how do you do that? And just some other ways to demonstrate your skills. One thing I think, Kari, though, that's important is that sometimes in the US, and I think this is like in some ways uniquely US, they will ask about their facility and their organization. And one of the things that's really important in the US is that every organization has a mission or vision or values. And oftentimes people get hired for values or behaviors here in the US. And so for domestic candidates in the US who are interviewing, oftentimes they will do research about the company itself and the mission and the vision, and have a really good answer to why you would want to work for this company in the US. And I think that's something that probably in other countries doesn't happen all the time. But if you're preparing for a US interview, you should take some time to research the company and the facility that you're interviewing for, because that's really important to interviewers.
That is, I'm learning so much from this conversation, because these are all things that, as a US native, I take for granted. Of course, when I was interviewing for Worldwide, I did research on the company and Sir Ron Hoppy and all those things. And I would never have even thought to tell Worldwide candidates to do that. So, wow, what a great tip. What about their English speaking abilities? Like, how important, because I know a lot of times people are just really nervous to speak in English to another person, especially if it's not their native language or even their second or third language. So how important are their English speaking abilities in these interviews?
I think that's really important. It's, because in some regions of the country, more important than others. Because some patients in some facilities may have less ability to understand folks who don't have great English skills here in the US. And so for some companies, it's more important than others. But I think for every single interview, it's really important, because part of what the interviewer is evaluating is just overall success in a new role. And while we all know that there's a lot of work to be done in the English world between the time that a candidate receives a job offer and when they land in the US, the employer is making a determination based on the English skills that are happening right now. And so if someone doesn't maybe doesn't show a great command of the English language, it can cause limitations. And I think one other thing just around this topic, sometimes if when a question is answered, if it's not answered in great detail, or if an interviewer asks for an example, but the example isn't really a good one, sometimes they might also think it's because you don't understand English as well as other candidates, when sometimes that's really just not the case. But I think also when you're thinking about interviews for US jobs, having really detailed responses can help the interviewer understand your background and your experience better, but also can show really good command of the English language as well.
Absolutely. That's why it's called the Occupational English Test, and that is directed specifically for healthcare workers. So people who are struggling with maybe an IELTS, a TOEFL, even a PTE, just because it's very general, very generic questions, check it out. If you're in a state that accepts the OET, that might be an option for you, because you obviously nailed your interview, you got a job, so maybe you're just more comfortable talking about healthcare. So I know that the IELTS is very popular. That's everyone's first go-to, and people are loving the PTE right now. But the OET is a really great healthcare-based exam for those of you who are in states where the OET is accepted. For those of you in the chat, I see so many hellos. Hello to everyone. If you have any questions for Amy, if you have any interview questions, please, please, please drop those in the chat. Amy would love to answer them live and direct right at you. So can you tell me about how should a nurse not just prepare mentally for the exam, but what about physically? What about their environment where they're taking their exam? What should that look like?
Yeah. So when you get ready to interview, I think it's important to be in a space where you can present professionally. And I think almost all of us do their interviews on the phone. So just have a place where your phone can sit and rest, so you're not holding it and doing the looks like you're at a concert sort of deal. So you want to make sure your phone can be stationary and that your background is clear. And you can also use blurred background, so you have the ability to set up your background. You don't have to be in a beautiful spot, but you do need to make sure there's not people walking behind you, and preferably your kids have somebody else that are watching them, so they're not coming up to you asking questions during the interview. I think it's really helpful if you can be somewhere where you know there's a really good internet connection, because it's, even our very best interviewers and best employers will have trouble hearing if there's not a really good internet connection. So if there's a place like in your hospital, or if there's a place in your city or town where you have better internet connection, it's a great time to choose to use that. And then I think always put your best foot forward, right? Like, dress as professionally as you can. If you're at work, scrubs are okay. Scrubs are fine. I think it's always good to say, like, hey, sorry, I just finished a shift. I'm wearing my scrubs. I'm in a room at the hospital. I think that's just a good point to let people know, so they have context for what you're doing. And almost all of the people who do interviews are clinical staff. And so they've all been in the same spot. They know what it's like. And, just like all the rest of the world, everybody in the US is working a lot of hours too in the nursing world. And so they understand and respect that. But I think you want to set up your space so that you have the least amount of distractions, and you want to do it a little bit ahead of time so that you have time to calm down and be your best self for the interview.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One question, we've got two questions. The first question was, what states accept the OET? As of right now, Florida, Oregon, Washington, Michigan, Massachusetts, Arkansas, and Washington, D.C. are states that accept the OET, but CGFNS has passed it for the visa screen. So for those of you endorsing, a lot of states are just requiring a visa screen accepted exam for endorsement. So always double check with your case manager, or you can reach out to me via email before you take those tests. Okay. Always, always, always check with a case manager or me or our licensure team before you sign up for a test, because I would hate for you to spend that money and it's not happening. We do have a question that says, what should I carry with me during the interview? So is there anything that they need to have with them? Do you suggest that they have pencil and paper to write stuff down, or what should they have on hand when they interview?
Yeah, so the interviewer will already have a copy of your CV and your information that you've provided. Occasionally, there are some employers that require some additional information, but we at Worldwide would have already provided that to the employer. So really, you just need to bring yourself. If you do think that you might want to take notes, feel free to have a pen or pencil to jot it down. But I think really just bringing yourself and giving your full attention to the interviewer is the best, is the best advice.
What are some of the biggest errors that candidates make in interviews that may cause them to not get the job?
Yeah. So I think one is, I know there's a huge nursing shortage in the US, and we desperately need nurses here. And there's lots of employers that do. However, each employer really does want to know that the candidates are interested in their particular opportunity. And so I think that one of the number one reasons why I think people don't get jobs is they spend the entire interview trying to hear from the employer why it's a really great job, instead of also trying to help the employer understand why they'd be a really great asset to their organization and why they want to work for that organization specifically. I think that's really, 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 really important. And honestly, the Worldwide team is super happy to talk about all the benefits and, compensation and, why would you want to work there? And we're happy to help you understand all of those things so you can use that interview time to be really impressive. So I think that's probably one. And I think two, not having detailed answers and not fully answering questions that interviewers ask. I think those are probably the two biggest reasons, which, great news, those are both things that you can learn and fix. And so I think that for almost all of our talented nurses with good experience that are working at bedside, there's a right employer and a place that the employer will hire almost everyone. And so if you do have a mishap on an interview, we can help you to fix that for the next employer.
I'm really, really glad you brought this one question up, or this one topic up, was the topic of compensation. How negotiable is salary? Like when they're coming into these, because I know that's money. Money is a big thing. It's really important. So when they're given the offer, can they negotiate salary? Should they? What's your advice there?
Yeah. So I think maybe let me say this first. So I think there's a lot of misconceptions about salary. And so at Worldwide, we're a direct hire agency. And so we're not a travel nurse agency.
Mhm.
And so the great thing about being direct hire is that you're going to have a job that you know exactly who the employer is. You're going to have all of the benefits of the employer. You're going to be able to immediately go into the ability to impress your supervisors and build your career. And like, there's so many really good things, but it's different than travel nurse money. Like you get paid like all the other full-time employees, and it's regionally based. So you might be in like Southern California and have a much higher wage than you would in Davenport, Iowa. But in Davenport, Iowa, you're going to be able to save more money and buy a house sooner. And so I think that's like just also when you're looking at wage and like long-term wealth and happiness in the US, the dollar amount doesn't tell the whole story. Also, one thing that's really important to know about the US employment system is that there's a lot of concern and regulation around paying people the same. And so like no matter whether you're male or female or what your religious beliefs are or where you come from, or there's a whole list of things, and everyone has to get paid the same. And so when a wage is calculated by an employer, it is almost always calculated for nurses by the department and the years of experience, and sometimes education. Sometimes there's a skills thing in there too, but I think what's important to know is that these wages are calculated on the same scale as everyone who currently works in the facility. And for that reason, it's really not very negotiable. Yeah. Because it's super important for each employer to be able to demonstrate to all the government agencies here that they're paying everybody the same wage. Now, there are some employers that will agree to pay the prevailing wage just at the offer stage. So they're going to give you what their prevailing wage is for that initial job offer. And then when they get either close to embassy interview or right after embassy interview, then they're going to recalculate the wage based on the location and the skills and all of those same things to make sure that you're getting paid, again, exactly the same rate for your experience as everybody who's currently working in that facility.
That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't realize that all of that went into calculating a salary. You always just see the dollar amount and you're like, okay. So, wow, so much. Well, today's show, I know Amy is super busy. She's vice president. She's a boss lady. So we're going to end with one final question for Amy. And that is, when an interview ends. When an interview ends, I know here in the United States, the employer always says, do you have any questions for us? And here in the US, we always advise you to have at least one question in your back pocket ready to go, so that it, again, like Amy's been talking about, you need to appear invested and eager to obtain this job. So Amy, what is one question that you would tell our candidates to kind of keep in their back pocket to have something if employers ask that question at the end of an interview?
I'm going to give you two.
Oh, good.
One, I think we get a lot of questions about patient ratios, and there's a lot of concern around patient ratios. If your employer hasn't already told you, that's a really good place to ask that question, because in most cases, each department has a different ratio. And so if you would like to know about the department that you're interviewing for, please ask that question at the end of the interview. I think too, and this is just a really good US question to ask. Ask the interviewer about their experience with the company, how long they've worked there, and why they like working there. I think it shows your interest in the organization, but also you can learn a lot. Like if someone's worked for the company for 20 years, that's a really good sign.
Yeah.
That's a good sign. It's a good company to work for. So I think hearing about their background and why they work for the company will also tell you a little bit more about reasons why you might want to work for the same organization.
That's also really good because, I mean, a lot of people, especially in these interviews, they've maybe spent all day interviewing, hours interviewing. So to kind of have the table turned and have them interviewed for a second is probably refreshing for an interviewer. Like, oh, okay, I get to answer a question now. That's probably a really cool, that's great advice. I love, love, love that question. Great way to end an interview. So Amy, I know, like I said, you're super busy lady. I heard that little meeting notice go off in the background. But I just want to say thank you on behalf of Kari's Corner. You are such an integral part to our company. You are your team, our recruitment team. I can't say enough amazing things about them. I get to come in the office and work with the Charlotte team, and you guys are in such amazing hands out there. If you're applying to Worldwide, you are in the absolute best hands with Amy and her team, honestly, because they are diligent in finding you that perfect job and getting you over here to the U.S. So, Amy, thank you so much for your time today. We sincerely appreciate you and all the work that you do.
Thanks, Kari. Thanks for having me. It was so fun. Hopefully I get to come back sometime soon.
Oh, absolutely. We need to bring Leah, who's one of Amy's assistants, on. She's pretty great. I think you guys would absolutely love Leah. She's a good time. She's another good laugh for everybody. So, all right. Well, thank you guys, everyone. Thank you, Amy, for tuning in. I'm going to kind of go through and answer some of those English language questions, but I'm going to let Amy pop off of here. So thank you again, Amy, and I hope you have a great day.
Bye.
All right. So we have, while Amy was on, Amy's so amazing. You guys have no idea the amount of work that Amy puts in, especially her and her team. They're so fantastic. But as Amy was talking, I was able to see a few English language questions, and I wanted to make sure that I answered those questions for you guys. Does Maryland, I have been through every board of nursing, does Maryland accept the PTE? As of right now, no, the Maryland does not. Maryland is looking for the IELTS and the TOEFL. And even the TOEFL, they're expecting that 26 in speaking. I know CGFNS kind of changed some of their scores. And so CGFNS is still, or sorry, Maryland is still requiring a 26 in speaking on the TOEFL. So that is the Maryland question. The IELTS UK Virgin Islands English test. Everything that I've seen, I've not seen specifically the IELTS UK Virgin Islands. Haven't seen that test. So I see that question. I'm going to have to do some research on that for you. So let me do some research, and hopefully I'll be able to get back to you with a better answer for that. Do my dependents need to do the English test? Not that I am aware of. Nope, that burden is yours to carry alone, Mary. Unless, if they're coming over to the U.S. and if they want to study at the university level in the U.S., then yeah, they're probably would need to take an English test. The TOEFL and the IELTS are both really common accepted tests for that. And then finally, someone asked if they were educated in the United Kingdom. The big thing is, as long as, I think this is Bako Haruna. I probably mispronounced your name. I'm so sorry. But I see it says that you have started your application. You were told that you would need to take the IELTS. And that's what recruitment's going to tell you that. That's their jam. That's what they're going to do. They just want you to be prepared. So once we get to the phase where we're going to accept your, you're going to send us a copy of your transcripts and all those fun things. You have a bachelor's in nursing from here in the United Kingdom. So if your transcript says, that you were educated, the language was English, you have a degree from the UK, you should be good. But again, that's going to be up to the state that you're going to. And then the evaluation, they evaluate your transcripts to make sure that you are exempt. So I cannot Kari's Corner, give you a firm answer without laying eyes on your transcript and knowing more information about, once you've accepted a job offer and you're going to a state, all that fun stuff. So your case manager you're in amazing hands with our case management team as well. So once you've got your job with recruitment, they're going to pass you over to one of our amazing phase 1 case management team members. And all of phase 1 is actually located in our Philippines office. So a shout out to my Philippines case management team. They're so stellar. Oh my God. They have picked all of this case management stuff up like a sponge. They are such an amazing group of people. So it's just a blessing and a privilege to work with them. So when you accept the job offer, that's who you're going to be working with, is one of those amazing case managers, and they will definitely guide you through whether your transcripts are accepted or not. Does Ohio accept? That's another one. I'm getting all sorts of, what kind of exam is required for Georgia? Georgia takes the TOEFL. I think it's Shahid. I could be wrong. Georgia takes the TOEFL though. That's a big one. Ohio. Let me scroll down my list. Ohio is an IELTS and TOEFL state. And it's going to depend. Again, it's always, are you applying for licensure through examination or endorsement? There's a lot that goes into determining which English exam you want to take. For a nurse aide, as of right now, there is no required English exam. However, I have designed an English course for my nurse aides to prepare them. It's later in their immigration process. It's what's called phase 10B or 9B. I think it's 9B. But you get to experience some Kari Cooper English instruction, even if you're a nurse aide, just to kind of help you prepare to be ready to speak English. But as far as nurse aides are concerned, no, you don't have to take an English exam, but it's always helpful. It is. It's always a good thing. It's good experience. It's never going to hurt you. If my IELTS I use for my visa screen expires before, do I need to get another IELTS for license endorsement? That's a really, really good question. I think that's an excellent question for your case manager. And then their case manager might email me, and then I can do a little more digging on that for you. But that is an excellent question for your case manager, Kari. I think that's right. I could be wrong. I'm doing research on the UK Virgin Islands IELTS. Never fear. Are you recruiting new applicants from India? We're recruiting applicants from everywhere. Our name is worldwide. We're recruiting from everywhere. We welcome you. Absolutely. Absolutely. Is an English language exam required in order to work as a nurse aide? Already answered that one, Cynthia. No, it is not required, but it is highly encouraged. Congratulations. Thank you, Cheryl. That's very kind of you. And a shout out to Sir Ron. Sir Ron, we love his just fearless leadership. He's so amazing. Do we offer free IELTS training? Yes. Oh, what a great question, Baco. Yes. And are we recruiting for nurse aides at the moment? Yeah, absolutely. We're recruiting for nurse aides at the moment. So hop on there, Cynthia. Yes, absolutely. We would love it. But where are we at? Oh yeah, the India. Thank you. Our host probably knows a lot more. Our host is that's Tracy. He's our marketing guy, and he is tuned into every department. So due to the current U.S. visa bulletin, so the kind of the wait list, if you will, if you're applying from India. So the question, do I offer English classes? Yes, absolutely. Once you get to stage 3 of the RN process, you are enrolled in my 4-week English exam preparation course. And we cover the reading, the writing, the speaking, the listening, and I do kind of pieces of all the big 3 exams, which are the IELTS, the TOEFL, and the PTE. PTE has kind of joined in the ranks with the IELTS and TOEFL. IELTS and TOEFL they're still the top 2 exams, TOEFL being the only exam accepted in all 50 states. But IELTS and TOEFL are definitely still the top 2. And then you've got the PTE, which is kind of climbing its way up that ladder to join the ranks of the IELTS and TOEFL. So that's the accommodation for family as well, that's going to be a great question for your case manager. I always love giving that answer when it's not an English language question. I'm like, that is a great question for your case manager. Well, all right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to conclude Kari's Corner today. Yet again, I want to give another shout out to Amy Kerr and her amazing self, and for her taking time out of her busy schedule. That girl is in meetings all day long, working hard for all of you at Worldwide. So I'm Kari. Thank you so much for stumbling into my corner today. Thank you so much to our host, handling the chat, Tracy, always an epic addition to the team. But again, I'm Kari. This is my corner, but I want to remind you, don't face the corner, face the world with Worldwide. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.